In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a shed or design a shed in SketchUp. So this is the shed we're going to be making here. We're going to just open up a new project and start from scratch, but I thought I would show you kind of where we're going with this. So this shed is built on skids. Notice the 4x4 skids here. Has 2x6 subfloor, 3/4 inch plywood on the floor. And then it's built with 2x4s on 16-inch centers and 2x6 rafters. And since this is only 6 feet wide, depending on where your location is, these rafters would be all right. They may not take a ton of snow load, but the point of this video is to just show you how to design your own shed. So I'm going to open up a new project, and we'll just start from scratch. So if you notice, the previous project had kind of the grass and sky look. If you prefer that, you can go over here to styles, go to default styles, and click this one right here. I usually don't actually use it, but I just started turning it on just to switch it up a little bit. So as I build this shed, I'm going to at least try to call out every single tool that I'm using. That way you can follow along. So I'm currently on the selector tool, which you'll find right here, and you can get to it just by hitting spacebar. So if I had the orbit tool, which is the O key, and I wanted to select, I'd hit spacebar. I'm going to click on this guy here and hit delete, just get him out of the way. Go back to the orbit tool, right? And when you don't have an object in your design here, the orbit tool is a little finicky and it will kind of shoot you all over the place. So once you have something in here, it knows that you're orbiting in relation to that object. So the first thing we're going to do is hit the R key for rectangle, and you can also find the rectangle tool right here. And I'm going to just lay out this shed. So I'll click and drag, and then once I drag a rectangle, I can actually just type in the dimensions I want. So if you look down here in the bottom right, the dimensions are currently 6 foot 3 3/4 inches by 22 feet 5 9/16. So I usually don't make it square so that I can see which dimension is the long dimension. So this is basically 6 feet by 22 feet, and what I want is 6 feet by 12. So I'm going to type in 6 apostrophe comma 12 apostrophe, and of course the apostrophe is just for abbreviating feet. I'm going to click enter after I type in my dimensions, and now we have a rectangle that is 6 feet by 12 feet. So this is the size of the shed we're going to build. Now if you wanted to, you could make this a slab and build a shed on top of it, but I usually just use it as a layout to get an idea of what the shed's going to look like. So if we wanted to build skids, a way that you could get an idea of where you want those skids is you could hit T for the tape measure tool, and I'll drag over 6 inches on each side, hit 6, enter, and if I wanted the subfloor to overhang by 6 inches, I would design the 4x4s right inside of these lines here. Now I'm actually going to delete the rectangle here, and I'm just going to use this as a guide for my skids, and then I'll frame the subfloor over it, and then I'll make sure that I've got it 6 feet. So hopefully I'm not confusing you already, but basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line right here, and I'm going to go 12 feet, enter. And so I'm going to go over 3.5 inches. A 4x4 is actually 3.5 by 3.5. So we'll come back 12 feet and over 3.5 inches. So instead of doing the same thing here, I'm actually going to make this skid and then move it over here. So you'll use the push-pull tool to lift this up 3.5 inches, and now you have a 12-foot long 4x4, and it's actually 3.5 by 3.5. So if you want to color it, you can triple click on it, hit B for paint tool, and then go to the magnifying glass here, which is browse, and then you can click under wood here, or you can go to synthetic surfaces, and this little wood pattern right here I often use for framing. So I'll go with the darker one here for the skids. And then the next thing we want to do is we want to make this into a component. So because it's already triple clicked, we can just right click or control click on a Mac. And again, if you had already clicked off of this, all you have to do is triple click the stud. And before I go any further, I'll mention, if you click on an object and it's not a component yet, it will just highlight the face. And if you double click, it will highlight the face and the edges that touch the face. And if you triple click, it will select everything that's touching that object there. So we've triple clicked on it. We're going to hit right click or control click on a Mac, make component. We're just going to call this skid. So now that we have our first skid, we're going to copy the exact skid and move it over here. And the reason you want to do this instead of making two different skids is if I were to make adjustments on this one, it will automatically happen to this one. So I'm going to hit M for the move tool, and Option or Alt will add a little plus sign on the cursor here. Notice that the little red arrows here, if I hit Option or Alt, it gives a little plus sign. What that does is moves a copy instead of moving this object. So since we've got 6 inches on this side and 6 inches on this side overhanging these, I know that the distance from this end to this end is 5 feet. Now when you move this object, I could just drag it right here to this corner, but I just wanted to mention that you can move it over 5 feet. And if you were to move this edge on the left 5 feet, that would put it over here, and we want it on here. So it's actually going to be 5 feet minus 3.5 inches, which is 56.5 inches, if I'm not mistaken. 56.5, enter, and that's exactly where we want that. So now we have two components here, or one component that's copied. I'm going to hit E for the eraser tool and just erase those dotted lines. And now we are going to create a subfloor on top of these skids here. And again, I've got 5 feet from end to end, so I want 6 inches overhanging on each end. So the easiest way to do this is to draw from here. That's 5 feet. We can go, actually, so let me mention one thing. I'm going to have another 1.5 inch board over here. So, and that's going to be my rim joist, I guess, of the floor system, subfloor system. So we're going to go line, and we're going to draw 4.5 inches past here, which would be 64.5. And then I'll hit spacebar, line, and come over here and just pull this out 4.5. So even though we're overhanging 6 inches, you'll see what I'm doing here. So I'm going to go up, and again, the line tool is L on your keyboard. Not sure I mentioned that. I'm going to go up 5.5 inches, which is the height of a 2x6. We're going to bring this over, what do we have? 9 inches plus 69 inches. And then come down right here. And so now we have basically our first 2x6. Now what I'm going to do is, before I pull this out 1.5 inches for its thickness, I'm going to paint it. I'm going to hit B, and I'll go to synthetic surfaces here, and I'll click this one. And the reason I'm doing that is when I hit P for the push-pull tool and pull it out 1.5 inches, it paints the entire board. So now every side of it is with that wood pattern. So now we have our first joist, and what I'm going to do is copy this all the way across here, 16 inches on center. So the first thing I want to do is triple click this and hit right click or control click, make component. We'll call this floor joist. And then now So when you set something 16 inches on center, the first board you're actually going to move from here 15 1/4, and I'll show you why that is. But let me just go ahead and move the boards, and then I'll show you what I mean by that. So again, we're going to go to the move tool, and we're going to hit option again because we're making a copy. So we're going to move this along the green axis. I'm going to just let off and type in 15.25. So that's 15 1/4. And the reason is all the boards from this point forward are measured from center to center, 16 inches, but the first board is measured from the end, so that your sheet goods, like 4x8 sheets of plywood, will fit on the end here and then end up on the center. So if I measure from here to center, type in 16, enter, it's dead centered here. So that's why we move the first board 15 1/4. The second board we're actually going to move 16 inches. So we'll hit M for move, option for copy. If you're moving this board, you want to be along the green axis here. If you happen to come off track, while you're still holding the click to drag and move this, you can hit the left arrow key and it will lock you right into the green axis. So I'm going to do that and type in 16, hit enter. That's going to give me 16 inches there. And then I'm going to type in X8, which is times 8. And so now we've copied our floor joist all the way to the end. And because the end here ends on 12 feet, which would center us, since 16 inches goes into 12 feet, we're going to need to move this one along the green axis 3/4 of an inch just to make it sit right there. So now we have our floor joist. And in case I confused you, the reason these are overhanging 4.5 inches is because the rim joist still has to go along the edge here. And because these are components, we can just draw that on here and it won't mess with anything. So what I'm going to do is hit L for the line tool. I'm going to come out 1.5 on the red axis, go down on the blue axis, 5.5, go back to this corner and back up again. And just like last time, we're going to get on the side that we're going to pull on, which is this side. I'm going to pull it across the whole thing here, and we're going to paint it first. So hit B, there we go, painted it. Now I can pull this, I can let off and type in 12 apostrophe for 12 feet, hit enter, and now that should go all the way to the end there. So we just want to copy this over here. I'm going to triple click, make it a component. And do not forget to make these things components, because things will get sticky where if you try to move them, it will move other things and warp things. So everything should be a component in this project. So we're going to call this rim joist. Enter. And I know that it needs to move 6 feet. It needs to be 6 feet here. So I want this end 6 feet minus 1.5 inches for the material. So if I move this and hit option, so M key for move and then option for copy, I can drag this over, and 6 feet is 72 inches minus 1.5 inches is 70.5, enter. So you can of course just drag it across here if you don't feel like doing math, but there we have it. So now we have our subfloor. We've got 2 skids and our 2x6 subfloor on 16-inch centers. So the next thing I'm going to do is create the plywood for the subfloor here. So we'll just use, since it's 12 feet long, we can just use 4-foot wide sheets, and we'll make them 6 feet long. So in real life, you would be cutting 2 feet off of the end of all the plywood. So that's how we'll make it. I'm going to go down here. I'm going to hit L for line. I'm going to come up on the blue axis and type in 0.75, or you can type in 3/4, 3/4. 0.75, we're going to go along the green line 12 feet. Oh, no. I'm going to do it 4 feet because we're going to make this one sheet at a time. Then I'm going to come back down on the blue axis right to the edge here and then I'm going to connect it all the way across here. Okay, so now we've got this little slither, and we're going to pull it all the way across, 6 feet across. And again, before we do that, we're going to paint it. B. For the plywood, I'm going to use this darker wood right here. Click right there, okay. Hit P for push-pull. I'll just pull it out a little bit. I'll stop and I'll type in 72, enter, and that's 72 inches, which is 6 feet. So now I can triple click on this object, control or right click, make component. We'll call this plywood, enter. Okay, so I'm going to move this sheet of plywood over here twice. I'm going to copy it twice so that it goes across the whole project here. So I'll come down, I'll hit M for the move tool, Option for copy, and I'll just drag a copy of this along the green axis, and then I can stop and just type in 48, enter, which is 4 feet, and then I can hit X2, and that made 2 copies of it. So now we have the complete subfloor system, joist, skids, and the plywood flooring. So now we're going to start framing. So we'll start with our bottom plates, and we'll make our studs, throw the top plates on. We'll do that on these end side walls, and then we'll do it on the end walls. So the way that you make a 2x4 here is just start in the corner, come up 1.5 inches, come across 3.5, come down on the blue axis to this line, come back to where we started. And just to clarify, I'm sure most people know, but a 2x4 is actually 1.5 by 3.5. So that's why I use those dimensions. So I'm going to hit B for the paint tool, select this color here, hit P for push pull, pull this out, type in 12 apostrophe, enter. So now we have a 12-foot bottom plate, and it's actually going to be the exact same board for our top plate. So we'll just copy it when it comes to that, and we'll use the same board over here for our bottom and top plates. So I'll triple click on this, right click or control click, make component, and I'll just call this top/bottom plate. Enter. Okay, so now we want to draw our studs on here. There's a few ways you can draw that, but I find the easiest is just to come right here, hit L for line, come out 1.5, enter, come across to the edge there, to this corner, back to this corner, and back here again. So now we should have the stud we can pull out. But before I do that, I'll hit Command Z, which goes back one step, and I'll hit B, and I'll go ahead and paint this. Now I'll hit P for the push-pull tool, and I'll pull this one up 82 inches. So now we have a stud. And if you remember from the beginning of the video, we're going to build this shed where it's taller on this wall and shorter on this wall. So I'll name this one. I'm going to triple click on it, make component. I'll name this tall stud. Okay, now we're going to space this 16 inches on center across the project, just like we did with the floor joist. So we'll hit M for the move tool, option, and again we're going to move the first one 15.25, and then we'll do the same thing here, hit option again for copy, and we'll move this one 16, enter, times 8 or x8, enter. And then again we've got to move this one back here, move, should come this way, 0.75, enter. Okay, so now we've got our studs, and to make the top plate, all we have to do is click on the bottom plate down here, hit M for move, option for copy, and since our studs are 82 inches, we need to move that plus the distance of what we're moving. And what I mean by that is the bottom of this isn't 82 inches from the top. It's actually 82 inches plus this 1.5 inches here. So I'll move this up, type in 83.5, enter, and that should land right on top there. And so we're going to go ahead and frame the next wall. So what we'll do is we'll click here, M for move, Option for copy. We're going to move this across here. So this is 6 feet minus 3.5, which is 68.5, if I've got that right. Okay. And then we can go ahead and set up our studs on this wall. So just like last time, we'll draw it here. We're going to come over 1.5, come across 3.5, back to the corner, back to this corner, and then we're going to hit B for the paint tool, paint this here before we drag it up so that the whole board is painted. Hit P for the push pull, and we'll pull this up 70.5. So this is our short wall here. And then we're going to make that a component by triple clicking. Right click, make component. We'll call this short stud. And then M for move tool, Option for copy. Come over 15.25, enter. Option again, move this one 16, X8. So now we've got our studs right there. I'm going to hit M. We're going to move this over 3/4 or 0.75. And then we'll copy the bottom plate and make a top plate on this wall out of it. So click on the bottom plate, M, Option for copy. And because this one is 70.5, actually, just to make it easier, I'm sure some of you guys don't want to do the math, so you can just drag it all the way up here. Let me step up here. There you go. You don't have to do the math like I'm doing. I find that easier just because it just shoots it right up to where I need it. So now we've got our two studs, our two walls there with our long studs, our short studs. We've got our top and bottom plates. Now I'm going to make this one just single top plate. It really wouldn't matter if you framed your rafters directly over this, but we won't get into the structural stuff here. We'll just stay focused. So the next thing I want to do is make my end walls here. So I'll start with this back wall, and to find out how long my bottom plate is, I can hit T for the tape measure. I can come right here to the edge of this bottom plate and go right in here to the inside of this bottom plate. So if you look in the bottom right corner, it says length 5 feet and 5 inches, which is 65 inches. So what I'll do is I'll come in here and I'll draw my stud right here. I'm going to come over 3.5, enter, come down to the line there, back to the corner, back here. I'll hit B for paint, and I'll go ahead and paint this before I pull it out. P for the push pull tool, and I'll pull this out 65, enter. Okay, so now we've got our bottom plate there. I'm going to click on it, right click, make component, call this end wall top/bottom plate. So again, we'll use this for top plates on this wall and for top plates on the other wall there. So now we need some studs. Let's see. All right, they're going to be 69 inches. So what I'll do is draw a line here, come out 1.5, come back across, over to the corner, back where I started, hit B for paint, P, to pull out. Type in 69, enter. Triple click, control click or right click, make component. We'll call this end wall stud. And then now I need to pull this across 16 inches on center. Now you don't actually have to make this one 15 1/4. If you wanted to do this exact, you would find out where 16 inches on center lies right here. So I'll just go ahead and do that. I'll type in, actually the easiest way to do this is to start in the middle right here. Pull this, type 16, enter. So now I need my stud to come past this by 3/4 of an inch. So we've got from here to here plus 3/4. So 11 3/4. Move tool, option for copy. Move this 11.75. And so 16 inches from the edge lines up here. And that may be confusing to people, but if you're just trying to get an idea of your shed design, just go ahead and build it 16 inches on center all the way across, and at least at first, so you can get the hang of SketchUp and then you can perfect it later. So I'll move the next one over 16 inches, move, option for copy, come over 16, and then it may be X3. Yeah, that'll do it. So we'll just call that our end wall, and because the end of the bottom plate here has no stud, we'll just copy one more and we'll move it right there. Okay, so now to move our top plate to the top there, we'll hit M, option for copy, and these are 69 inches, so we're going to move it 70.5 if I'm not mistaken. Yep. And then I'm going to put a bottom and top plate on these end walls here just for the heck of it. So option again for copy, move this up 1.5 inches. Okay, so we've got 3 walls. Now we need our front wall here. Now this front wall is going to have a door, so there is going to be essentially 2 different bottom plates that are really short right here, and then the top plate will be the same as this wall. So what I'm going to do is draw my first bottom plate, which I'll come out 3.5, come down here, click here, here, B, paint, P for pool, type in 12.5, and then I will make that a component, triple click, right click, make component. I'll call this front wall bottom plate. And then now we're going to hit move, option for copy, and move this all the way over here. Okay, so now we've got 2 of those. And if we wanted to just basically take these studs from over here, I could click M. See, I'm over on this stud right here. M, option for copy, and I could move it all the way over here. And then I'll do, let's see, move, option. I'll move one right here. Then I'm going to double it up here because this is going to be a big 4-foot wide door, so the hinges need some structure to hold on to. So we'll double up right here on the ends. And so I can select both of these. I hit spacebar for the select tool. I can click on one of these, hold shift and click on another, hit M, copy, and now it will copy both of these. So I'll just move this over right here. And now I'll deselect one of these. So shift, click again. So now it's back to one is selected. Hit M for the move tool, option for copy, and then I'll move one right here. Okay, so now all we need is a top plate, and this is going to get a double top plate as well since it sits over our doorway. What I'll do is I'll just select these two right here, and I'll move a copy of them by hitting move and option again, and I'll just move it all the way over here. So now we have all four walls. We've got a 4-foot wide door here. I believe this is 5 foot 10.5. You could actually make this a little taller and make it 6 feet there. But I actually mapped out all these dimensions so that an 8-foot piece of plywood would fit over all of this, including the rafters that we're going to make up top. So now we'll go ahead and make those rafters. Now there's a couple ways you can do this. If you take a board and give it a standard pitch like 612, 812, something like that, you'll come up with a pretty funny angle. So if I'm not mistaken, this shed was designed so that you didn't have to do that, and you could cut a very simple angle on a rafter. So what we'll do is, actually first we'll just make a rafter going straight across here, and then we'll tilt it down to make it fit this properly. So I'm going to come over here, I'm going to draw up on the blue axis, and again, if you're off here, you can hit up on your arrow key and it will constrain it to the blue axis. So I'll type in 5.5, enter. I'll come along the green axis, 1.5, enter. Come down to here, enter, or click. Okay. So what I'm going to do is first I'll paint this, B for paint tool, click here, and now I'll hit P for push pull, and I'm going to pull this out a little longer than 6 feet so we have some room, because we're going to cut off some angles on the end. So I'll just go with something like 80 inches for now, and then I'll show you. I'm just going to cut it off anyway. But what we can do, first we'll triple click this, make it a component. We'll call it rafter. And then the way I designed this shed, I actually made the rafters on the end different than the ones in the middle. So we'll first start with, we'll move this over 15.25. And then I'll copy some for the ends here. You'll see what I mean in just a second. So that sits directly over our stud there. And now what I'm going to do is rotate this. So if I hit Q for the rotate tool, notice there's a blue protractor and then it turns green, and it might alternate back and forth. If you hit left on the arrow key, it's locked on the green face. So that's what we want. We're going to click here on the corner, and just anywhere on here on the end here, and we're going to bring it down 10 degrees. I'll hit 10 for 10 degrees. And so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to hit M for move, and I'm going to pull this down right onto the edge here, and it should line up right here too. 10 degrees. Yep. So I kind of designed the length of these walls so that a 10-degree slope like that would line up perfectly. And then now what we're going to do is we're going to trace these lines here, and we're going to cut them out of the piece. So this is, if you were to draw, let me stop for a second and say, I'm going to hit spacebar for select and click off of this. If I were to hit L and I were to draw on this rafter, this line is not actually connected to the rafter component. So the way that you actually draw on it, because we want to actually trace this out, we're going to triple click the object and now draw on it. So I'll start right here. I'm going to draw up to this corner, draw to here, and then I will come up just like that. So we're going to do the same thing over here. L for line tool, start right here. Actually, we're going to cut this off flush on this end. Come down here, trace here, orbit around, hit L, click on this corner, and draw that right there. So now, what we can do is pick this rafter up, M. I'll go up on the blue axis. I'll type in 12, just 12 inches, just to keep it simple. And I'm going to hit P, or actually I have to triple click this again to alter it. So I triple clicked it, I hit P. Now I'm going to pull this over and type in 1.5. So it cuts that piece clean off there. And then right here, we're going to hit P, pull that 1.5, enter. And then I'll erase this little line here. And so now, if we, let's see, rotate with the orbit tool, which is O. Now if we pull this down 12 inches, it should sit perfectly flush on our framing there. 12, enter. So there it is. Okay, so now we're going to copy this across the project here by clicking M, Option, drag this over 16 inches, enter, times 8. Okay, so I mentioned that the end rafters were going to be a little different, so I'll manipulate this one and then I'll drag it over here to the end. You'll see what I mean. But I framed this a little funny where the wall, notice the rafters going into our studs there. So what we're going to do is we're going to triple click this rafter. We're going to right click it and hit explode, which I am not seeing. Oh, don't triple click. Just click it once, right click, and then hit explode. So now all of these rafters here are still a component, but this one, because I exploded it, see it is not selecting like a component. And I'm going to triple click, control, make component, and I'm going to call this one end rafter. So before I do anything else, I will get this lined up here. 3/4 back over. Okay, so now all we need to do is we need to trace out this shape right here. We're going to triple click, line from here to here. So now I'll click on this, M for move. I'll move it up. We can just move it up 6 inches just to see what we're doing here. We're just going to cut this piece off by using the P push pull tool. And again, we have to triple click on it to manipulate it because it's a component. Move that over, hit 1.5. And then I will just delete this little line right here. Okay. So now if I move this down 6 inches by clicking off of it, click it again, M, come down 6. That is our end rafter. And so to move this all the way to the end, I can hit M for move, Option for copy. Because this is 12 feet long, I'm moving it 12 feet minus the 1.5 inches here. So that's 144 minus 1.5 inches, which is 142.5. So I'll move this over. I'll type in 142.5, enter. Oop, I did not have it lined up. So I didn't have it on the green axis. So copy, move this. See, it went off like that. I'm on the green axis, 142.5, enter. So that should have added the end rafter down here. All right, so there you have it. I think that's a good stopping point. I'll just stop at the framing here because that's the basis for designing your shed. You could just apply 4x8 sheet goods to this, but I think most people watching this are probably just trying to get an idea of how to start designing, how to start framing in SketchUp. So I hope that was helpful. It felt a little bit all over the place, and maybe I moved a little too fast. I'm not really sure what to think about it. So I'd love to hear your comments. If you could just let me know in the YouTube comments how I could be better at these tutorials, better at helping you. I'd really appreciate that. So anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.